This program is dedicated to my family, which includes members of F Troop, a motorcycle club in the Cedar Rapids area. My family would like to say thank you to all the men and women who are serving or served in the U.S. military, keeping America great by defending its Constitution and protecting our democracy. We thank you. Hello, my name is Randy Schildmeyer, and I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've rode my motorcycle most of my life, except for 20 years when I married my damn job. In 2018, I bought a new Honda Goldwing DCT motorcycle and joined the GWRRA, which stands for the Goldwing Road Riders Association. And that is when I discovered my life all over again. Durango is a small city in southwest Colorado, near the New Mexico border. The Denver and Rio Grande Railroad Company formed Durango along the banks of the Animas River in September of 1880 to serve as a San Juan mining district. Lots of silver and later gold were discovered 50 miles north in the mountains at settlements of mining towns like Silverton. Durango at a lower elevation had better climate and a good supply of water and coal for operating the smelters to get the precious metal out of the ore. The railroad company quietly bought up the land using various different names to conceal what it was doing. The land was purchased at a cheaper price this way. Durango, Colorado was named after Durango, Mexico. Native Americans had camped along the banks of the Animas River for thousands of years, but then they mysteriously left this area of Durango along with the cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde. I like Durango and I could find myself living here, if only I had more time in my life. There is an interesting museum located just south of the train depot. An old train engine is disassembled to let you look inside. Many families and old railroad workers have donated time to provide artifacts that tell us the history of railroading here. There are other relics here on display too. The drawings and paintings all around, and they look so real, they almost come alive. Hello, I'm Randy Schildmeyer, and I'm 69 years old. I've arrived in Durango, Colorado by motorcycle. Today I'm sharing my experiences on board the Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Train. I have not posted to YouTube for a while, and I'll soon tell you why. In this video, I will also share my experiences riding motorcycle at Gettysburg, the Black Hills, the Devil's Tower, and Rocky Mountain National Park. I do not monetize my video because I enjoy editing and want to tell you my story before it's too late. If you're a student trying to learn the quadratic equation from this video, I'll guarantee you will not improve your GPA. If you want some ideas on your next vacation, then sit back, relax, laugh, and watch me flounder my way editing, looking for the end of this video. Let's look at a map. A small town of Silverton formed when gold and silver ore was discovered. Getting gold out of Silverton was very dangerous when in 1880 Durango was formed. Coal and water were more abundant in Durango for smelting silver and gold out of the ore. A narrow gauge train track was built from Durango to Silverton. It was easy to move silver and gold ore downhill to Durango as to pulling coal uphill for the smelting process. The climate in Durango was also much warmer. Long ago, over 500 years before 1880, the Utes, a Native American tribe, lived in the Durango area. The Ute tribe lived here for a long time, but suddenly abandoned the large cliff settlement, which today is called Mesa Verde National Park, located west of Durango. The discovery of gold and silver in 1880 near Silverton may have hastened the Utes' departure too. The treatment of American native peoples was not always best, and our history books may not necessarily be as truthful as we may think. It depends on who's telling the story. It is an American tragedy to lose your social culture and skills to fit into another society, but to the victor goes the spoils. Many of this area's train tracks and roads follow trails made by these early Native Americans. You can understand the nature here with its water and wildlife and why the Utes were living here. I rode my motorcycle to get here to Durango. I enjoy riding my motorcycle because it forces me into the moment. I feel more of the present and will not dwell on the future or the past. Yes, it comes with risks, but it's a quality of life and an experience that you really can't understand unless you own a motorcycle. Riding through nature that is teaching you about yourself. Knowledge you can't get from an iPhone or a couch watching YouTube videos. Come on, get yourself a motorcycle. Discover yourself. It can be a Honda, Harley Davidson, or Yamaha, Suzuki. It makes no difference. It will be a ride for you to discover yourself. It is very enjoyable riding a motorcycle to historic sites. I will gather information before arriving on site, in books, museums, and yes, even YouTube. I don't want anyone to whitewash the ugliness away one way or the other. I want to see it for myself, the successes, the failures, the outcomes. I want to come to my own conclusion. If a statue is offensive to someone, put an approved plaque on it and explain your position, so I can understand looking at it through your eyes. The people in the past are trying to tell you their story, and we're trying to change it by applying today's political spin. No, let the ugliness show, so others like me can learn from our past, showing us good and evil of human nature as we go through our life's journey. Let's take a break for a moment from our train ride. About 2 years ago, I rode my red Honda Goldwing motorcycle to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the site of one of the most horrific battles in the Civil War. It was at the crossroads of deciding if we were going to be a United States or not. Over 50,000 soldiers paid with their lives in 3 days' time on July 1st to July 3rd in 1863. Gettysburg. June 1st, 2020. I'm riding my motorcycle to this sacred ground, a battlefield, an event that took place July 1st through the 3rd in 1863. It happened almost 157 years ago today. To put it into perspective, I am 67 years old, and if you multiply my life 2.5 times and subtract it from today's date, you would be back into the Civil War. It was a battle that caused 50,000 casualties during a 3-day engagement. If the Confederates won, it would get them recognized by Great Britain as a country. Great Britain need cotton to support their garment industry. This would provide the Confederates much-needed cash. If the Union won, it would be the beginning of the end of the Civil War, and we would be an us again, the United States of America. Come along with me as we ride through this holy ground and see the areas of sacrifice where life was paid by the Confederate and Union armies. We will ride the battle areas and talk about what went right and what went wrong for both sides in this conflict. I'm riding my 2018 Goldwing to where the battle began on July 1st. Let me set this up at the beginning of this battle for you. Robert E. Lee became the Confederate general for the Army of Virginia June 1st, 1862, after defending Richmond, Virginia against the Union. He had defeated the Union many times with great success. The Confederate armies were high on battle victories, but low on supplies, so they decided to leave Virginia and gather what they could from the Union in towns and farms going to Pennsylvania. The Confederates needed to win one more battle to convince the Union to quit and to be recognized as a country by Great Britain. General Joseph Hooker, a Union commander and Army of the Potomac, a few days before the Battle of Gettysburg. General Joseph Hooker lost to Robert E. Lee in Chancellorsville, Virginia. Hooker, not a confident man, overestimated the Confederate Army's size and position and always asking Washington for more men and supplies. He would let his men visit the ladies of the evening, and they were called hookers, and today this name is still around. Lincoln had enough and decided to change generals. General Meade, a civil engineer, was located near Gettysburg and became the new general of the Potomac just days before the Battle of Gettysburg. A side note, if you are in Key West, Florida, it was this General Meade who constructed the lighthouse across the street from the author Ernest Hemingway's home. Before the Battle of Gettysburg, the Union and Confederate armies were tracking each other, but never really sure of each other's location. It happened on July 1st, when elements of Robert E. Lee's army came against the Union cavalry northwest of Gettysburg. Gettysburg is the crossroads of many primary roads, and it is here where the battle started. In 1913, this was also the site of the last reunion ceremony by the soldiers who fought in this battle. As I said, the battle started, but the Union and Confederate armies were not really organized to do battle. The race was on each side to get into position. Union General Meade needed to slow the Confederate army down before Gettysburg to secure high ground just southeast of Gettysburg. Robert E. Lee, upon arriving in the area, realized the army did not have the high ground as the Union was securing a line from Culp's Hill to Little Round Top. For Robert E. Lee, the race was on to deny General Meade this advantage. On the first day, the battle raged to beat the Union back into Gettysburg, and the Confederates won the day. On day one, the Confederate Army made a mistake by not taking the unguarded Culp's Hill. The words of General E. Lee used earlier in the day was to take Culp's Hill if practicable. Not capturing Culp's Hill may have cost the Confederates their victory at Gettysburg. The Union soldiers by morning had Culp's Hill heavily guarded, and the Confederates missed an opportunity. The Confederate Army also didn't know how close they were to cutting off the Union Army's supply line. Union General Meade's whole operation would have been in jeopardy if the Confederates' army advanced just a little further south than they did. I'm riding my motorcycle on Confederate Avenue just behind the Confederate lines. It is here on day 3 of the battle at Gettysburg that Pickett's charge was staged and started across the battlefield from this point. This area is where Robert E. Lee watched and conducted the battle. He saw how Pickett's charge attacked and broke the Union lines at the angle. Lee saw how his soldiers were rapidly repulsed by the Union Army as the Confederates' line crumbled after breaking through this line. Oh, so close. As General Pickett returned to the Confederate lines, he met with Robert E. Lee, who requested that General Pickett regroup and try again. General Pickett's reply was, "General Lee, I have no army. It is lying out in the field of battle, dying." General Robert E. Lee realized then that the battle was over, and he walked slowly toward the men coming off the battlefield, saying many times, "Gentlemen, It's all my fault. It's all my fault. I continue my motorcycle ride further south on Confederate Avenue back into day 2. There was a race between the Confederate and Union armies to get cannon on top of a hill called Little Round Top. Whoever got this accomplished first would dominate the southern part of the battlefield. The Union barely captured Little Round Top before the Confederates could get there. Big Round Top was considered too, but it was too steep and covered in forest. Big Round Top could provide a sniper advantage over Little Round Top, so it was guarded by the Union infantry from Maine. Union General Sickles, during the Union preparation for Day 2's battle, made a huge mistake, and he decided to change General Meade's orders. Instead of continuing the Union line south through the draw to Little Round Top, General Sickles moved his regiment to the ridge line containing the wheat field, the peach orchard, and the Devil's Den, and back to Little Round Top. This created a bulge where Sickles' soldiers were not enough to defend the area. Just before the battle was to begin, General Meade rides to General Sickles and asks him what the hell he was doing. General Sickles replied, "Do you want me to move my soldiers back?" And General Meade said, "I don't think the Confederate Army's going to let you." And the battle soon began. This created a huge logistic problem for Meade. Luckily, the Union was more condensed and could move around inside the battlefield faster than the Confederates could. The Confederates were wrapped around the west and north sides of the Union's better defensive positions. The Confederate Army was also protecting their escape route in case things went bad. Nevertheless, this caused General Meade a lot of stress while trying to cover for Sickles' mistake. Day 2's battle had heavy losses of life around the south end of the battlefield and at the north end at Culp's Hill. General Sickles' leg was shot off northwest of Little Round Top, and he had it later sent to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. He visited his leg frequently after the Civil War. You can see Sickles' leg too at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. As I said earlier, Day 3 consisted of Pickett's charge, where the Confederate soldiers slammed hard into the Union center. The Confederates broke through into the Union line, but lost their momentum on the other side. The ones still standing suddenly turned and ran for their lives. The soldiers on both sides gave up so much in what they believed in. But it's here at Gettysburg that the process for us to become a Union again started here. I know I am skipping a lot of information that happened here during these 3 days. I have not talked about Union General Custer's battle that he had just northeast of the battlefield, where Custer and his brave men, outnumbered, prevented the Confederates from accomplishing a sneak attack from behind the Union line. Robert E. Lee and the Confederates on paper should have won this battle, but it was poor timing of these events that had cost Lee his victory. The loss of life here at Gettysburg was over 50,000 soldiers. They're lying here telling you their story. Come here to Gettysburg and listen and learn. You will not regret it. Before I leave this area, I have one more thing to talk about this battlefield. On November 19, 1863, 5 months after the battle occurred, 2 men came here to honor these soldiers who died here and were buried here. One man spoke for 2 hours explaining why this land was so sacred, and the other man said it so eloquently in just 272 words. That man was President Abraham Lincoln, and it was his Gettysburg address that told us so much about ourselves and why we as a nation are here. Come here to Gettysburg and learn more. I plan to edit this video as a standalone piece, but my life's path changed along with my plans too. I will tell you more about this later as we go back to Durango, Colorado, riding the narrow gauge train heading toward Silverton, Colorado. Welcome back to the Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Train going to Silverton, Colorado. People have asked, is this a coal-fired steam engine? And the answer is, it was. The Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad was converted to run on oil starting in 2018. A more environmentally friendly source of fuel that holds less of a fire risk than a traditional coal-burning engine. Crews converted the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge's engine number 493, a coal-burning locomotive, to run on oil instead of coal. The conversion was done for the future of steam trains. Coal-burning engines emit small cinders from their smokestacks and can start fires. This issue came to a head in the summer of 2018 when the duration of the drought increased risk of fire along with the 416 fire that shut down the DNS&G for more than 40 days. Locomotive number 493 was built in 1902 and ran for the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad all over Colorado. But in the mid-1900s, it was taken out of service, and when the DNS&G bought the line in 1981, number 493 was determined to be too big for its needs and was put on display at the museum in Silverton. Then in 2016, the DNS&G decided to add another locomotive to its fleet of 6 coal-fired engines. Crews got to work in the winter of 2018 on steam engine number 493, converting it to burning oil. This means that number 493 would no longer require someone to shovel coal. For the passengers, the experience is largely unchanged. Each locomotive billows iconic steam out of its stack, blows its own nostalgic whistle through the town, and provides riders with the same breathtaking views of the San Juan Mountains. The 50-mile trip from Durango to Silverton through the San Juan Mountains is a must-do for everyone. Coal-burning steam engines are iconic, but the oil-burning engines are almost the same without black soot over everything, including your clothes. We are at mile marker 18 into our narrow gauge train ride. This train mostly travels along the Animas River through the San Juan Mountains. The mountain cliffs sometimes butt right up against the river. This train was originally used for hauling silver and coal from Silverton to Durango. The silver and gold was extracted from the ore by using a smelting process in Durango. The train track to get to Silverton was laid on the most direct route possible, so in the 1800s they carved a track bed out of the side of the mountain. Today it provides breathtaking views where you feel like you're almost floating on air. You can see through the train window where the back of the train is clinging to the mountains. I am looking forward to this view when I return in a couple of hours going back to Durango using this same track. But for you, it'll be in just a couple of minutes. In 2021, I rode my motorcycle to the Black Hills. I rode my motorcycle on roads like Iron Man, Needles Highway. I saw Mount Rushmore and the progress that is taking place at Crazy Horse. Yes, I even stopped at Sturgis, South Dakota in June while riding my Honda Goldwing. I am sure a Harley-Davidson rider in August during the Sturgis rally who stopped at the same stop sign wondered what caused such a pleasant Honda scent. The whole purpose of a Harley-Davidson rider is to stop and look for parts that fell off onto the ground from a previous Harley-Davidson rider. Come on, I'm a 69-year-old man, let me have a little fun. I suppose it would be fair for you to say, I see you rode your sewing machine to Sturgis this year. This is all in fun until you drop a Goldwing from a crane and watch it smash on the ground for entertainment. I say to you, if you drop a Harley-Davidson motorcycle to the ground like you've done with the Goldwing, how could you tell if it's not running right? It really doesn't matter what you ride as long as you ride. We like to have fun and enjoy each other. Let's go to South Dakota and look around a little. I'm camping here at the Black Hills area of South Dakota. It is my first experience in doing dispersed camping. Dispersed camping is an economical way to camp on a 14-day permit in designated areas of the U.S. Forest and Park System. After 14 days, you will need to relocate to a different campsite located at a certain distance from your current campsite. This gives others a chance to camp at famous campsites too. I have several sleeping systems along with me today for different styles of camping. One method you see here is a full-size tent with solar power energy for lights and recharging phones and cameras. A hammock system is another method, which requires trees. The hammock system will also allow you to camp on the ground, but I'm not willing to be a fresh meat burrito for a coyote or a bear. A large tent will allow the animal to see me before tripping over me as they try to outrun their predators. Another rule is you do not feed the animals. Do not leave food behind after your camping experience. Bears, mountain lions, and coyotes are intelligent animals, and they will be a nuisance and nightmare for future campers if you leave food behind at your campsite. Leaving food could lead to the campsite being closed or destroying the animal because it has developed a taste for human consumption. Take all your food with you when you leave and never reward the animal. It is for your safety and everyone else. Dispersed camping also has no amenities. You carry in, you carry out, leaving the area cleaner than when you arrived. Don't leave a mess or this privilege will disappear because no one wants a landfill in the park and no one wants to clean up after anyone. Riding a motorcycle on the roads of the Black Hills is a pilgrimage that comes true, where nature's beauty is laid at your feet. Riding the roads of South Dakota should be on your bucket list. 2 highways that are must-rides are Iron Mountain Road, which is a 17-mile ride with 314 curves, 14 switchbacks, 3 pigtails, 3 tunnels. How about that? I'm coming close to a tunnel that gave me goosebumps when I rode through it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Now. Perfectly framed for you, I give you Mount Rushmore. Another road that is a must-ride is Needles Highway, which is more than 14 miles long. Its spectacular drive through pine and spruce forest, meadows surrounded by birch and aspen trees, and by rugged granite mountains. The road was named Needles Highway because of the needle-like granite formations that seem to pierce the sky along the highway. It is a spectacular view in my opinion, and it's a must-see by you using your own eyes. There are plenty of things to see in South Dakota, and the main attractions are none better than Mount Rushmore. 4 three-dimensional shapes of presidents carved into the mountain. They are George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Their carvings were completed on October 31st, 1941. Are these selected persons perfect in every way? No, but they were great leaders, and the bulk of their lives in public service, with their contributions, have made them our heroes, blemishes and all. This is our history, and the facts are what they are, and the story is mostly told by the people that were alive at that time. This monument brings tears to my eyes on what we achieved as a nation so far, but the boat did not rise for everyone in our society. The Native Americans have lost their way of life in the process with broken treaties and were forced to live on reservations. Not far from Mount Rushmore is another monument in construction. I do not know if I'll ever see it completed in my lifetime. I have been here 3 times over 3 decades, and the progress is slow. The monument is Chief Crazy Horse. Chief Crazy Horse and his members belonging to the Lakota Sioux tribe were suffering from the cold and starvation. On May 6, 1877, Chief Crazy Horse surrendered to General George Crook at Red Cloud Indian Agency in Nebraska. He was sent to Fort Robinson, where he was killed when soldiers tried to imprison him into a cell. He was just trying to survive a system that took away his life. His famous quote, "My land are where my dead lie buried." Chief Crazy Horse is remembered for his courage, leadership, and his tenacity of spirit in the face of nearly impossible odds. His bravery is more than I could have ever mustered in my lifetime. I respect this man along with many others that I have learned about through reading of their histories. These individuals who gave their supreme sacrifice with their life to improve the conditions for others. On the second week of August of every year, there is a motorcycle rally that takes place in Sturgis, South Dakota. It brings motorcycle riders from all corners of the earth. Most of them are Harley-Davidson riders, and they're from all walks of life. It would be a blast to hear the music and entertainment that happens here in Sturgis on that week. The roads are crowded with riders all wanting to do the same thing at the same time. I personally would want to avoid this place at this time at all cost. But curiosity is a powerful draw, and it pulls on you even during the month of May. While in Sturgis, I had to stop for some grub. After lunch, standing by my Honda Goldwing motorcycle at this Sturgis Harley-Davidson infested shrine, as any Harley-Davidson owner would say about their motorcycle, I'm about to say about mine. I'm a proud owner of a Honda Goldwing, and you'll have to pull the handlebars out of my cold, dead hands before I give it up. A few seconds later, I heard an echo come back. I have one too. I turned and smiled, and as I got on my Goldwing, I set my course for the Devil's Tower. The Devil's Tower is 30 miles west of Sturgis, and you will cross the South Dakota state line into Wyoming. The Devil's Tower is a magna core which cooled and the rain eroded the land away. Rising out of the prairie that is near the Black Hills, Devil's Tower National Monument is an astounding geological feature to behold. The tower is known for its sheer size, is one of the best places for rock climbing. It has a vast array of wildlife and ecosystems. The Devil's Tower is 867 feet from its base to the summit, and the summit on the top is about the size of a football field. Again, this area is culturally significant to the American natives. In June, they honored the souls of their past by tying a cloth to a tree to simply respect and remember their ancestors. You can camp at the designated campsites close to the base of the Devil's Tower, but it's a first-come, first-served basis. I visited this park in May, so camping was much easier than in June, July, or August. Finding a campsite could be difficult at this time of year. This was a place that also soothed my soul. On a side note, the Devil's Tower was a centerpiece for a movie shot by Steven Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Please watch this movie if you get a chance. I spent a very peaceful night here, but throughout the night the coyotes yelping in the distance made the darkness feel lonesome. The silhouette of the Devil's Tower next to the much brighter, bigger stars in the sky made my life less significant. Who am I with this gift of life, and where does it fit in the order of nature? If you look at it in a certain way, I am nature asking about myself. We are all part of nature, and during some part of our lives, we will ask the same question over and over again. I'm still searching, but I do know that life is a one-time chance that should not be wasted. Let us get out there and help each other make the most of it. You can blame this whole conversation we're having right now on South Dakota. It touches a spirit which starts you soul-searching. No one of us has the answers, but each one will eventually figure it out. Now, let's go back to Durango, where I'm riding a narrow gauge train that is getting closer to Silverton, Colorado. Welcome back to the Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad. We're slowing down along the Animas River for a water stop. Steam engines require lots of water to make steam, and steam is under a lot of pressure, and that's what pushes the pistons that make the wheels turn. Water is collected from the mountain streams into wooden tanks along the train tracks. Once the tanks are filled with water, the excess water is bypassed to continue its way to the Animas River. As I said earlier, oil is used to heat the water into steam for these locomotives to move. An engineer is needed to know how to control the steam, and it's involved safety equipment, or things could go bad very quickly. Before each train trip, hours are spent firing up these engines to make sure they can move and pull passenger cars. I am glad I could experience this type of transportation and will remember this for the rest of my life. Now I'd like to take you on another one of my adventures. This time we're off to the Rocky Mountain National Park near Estes Park, Colorado. Colorado is such a beautiful place to vacation. You should plan your own adventure here too. I'm standing near Lake Loveland in Loveland, Colorado. It's a beautiful place where I parked my motorcycle and used a kill switch which left my lights on to drain the battery. A female stranger from Stranger Photography was enjoying the park just like I was about to do. I'm sure she was wondering what the hell I was up to when I asked her to take my picture. After my photo shoot and a small breakfast, I found my motorcycle would not start. I knew then I will always have a small battery jumper to start my motorcycle at all times. A nearby car helped me get my motorcycle started this day. I rode west out of Loveland to Estes Park using Highway 34 along the Big Thompson River. Let's look at our dream map, and you can see it's a 30-mile ride out of Loveland, Colorado, and approximately 45 minutes to Estes Park. On July 31st, 1976, the Big Thompson Canyon flood claimed the lives of 143 people. This flood was triggered by a nearly stationary thunderstorm near the upper section of the canyon that dumped 12 inches of rain in less than 4 hours. This was more than 3/4 of the average annual rainfall for the area. Little rain fell on the lower section of the canyon where many of the victims were found. It was the deadliest flood in Colorado history. Loveland, Colorado is at 4,984 feet above sea level, and Estes Park, Colorado is 7,522 feet above sea level, which is a difference of 2,538 feet in 30 miles. The population of Estes Park is 5,880 in the 2021 census. It is a very enjoyable ride with small villages tucked along the Thompson River and Thompson Canyon. You can see why it would be very disastrous if a 12-inch ring fell upstream and a wall of water that would shoot through this very narrow canyon. Estes Park is nestled just east of the Rocky Mountain National Park. The Stanley Hotel is ready to receive guests, and some say it's haunted. The Stanley Hotel was featured in a movie called The Shining.
Here's Johnny!
There is a lot of things to do and see in Estes Park. Camping, hiking, swimming, skiing, fishing, depending on the season. My favorite thing is eating at restaurants and sometimes splurging on food that is probably not the best choice for a person my age. I'm on a seafood diet during my vacation. When I see food, I eat it. I need the salt and protein to maintain strength for handling my motorcycle in all kinds of weather. Estes Park sits just east of the entry of Rocky Mountain National Park. The elevation of the park ranges from 7,860 feet to 14,259 feet. Rocky Mountain National Park makes you feel like you're on top of the world. Within the park's boundaries are 77 mountain peaks over 12,000 feet high, and it crosses over the Continental Divide. Long Peak is the tallest mountain in the park, with hiking trails and available camping sites. Remember, do not feed the animals and clean up after yourself as mentioned earlier. The sun's daylight is approaching the longest day of the year. The snow packs are melting back, but sometimes last all year. Animals are grazing at a higher elevations during the shorter summer season. It is beautiful here. Higher than the clouds, you can see them drifting slowly up the ravine. This mountain summit also is where the Continental Divide is located. Rain falling on the east side flows to the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico, and on the west side it flows through the Colorado River into the Pacific Ocean. At the summit you can see for miles, and today I was lucky to see elk resting on the mountainside. The headwaters of the Colorado River is located just northwest of the park. All of us Americans need to see this great land of ours and to discover who we really are and what we have. Look at the elk that is not concerned about the pickup passing her by, but she's worried about me photographing her from behind. Is this common with all species? Just asking. Let's look at our dream map again. We used Highway 34 from Estes Park. We stopped at many vistas and went over the Continental Divide to the western slopes of the Rockies. There I stopped at my campsite. I'm using a third sleeping method system shown here. Tomorrow I will leave the campsite in Rocky Mountain National Park and spend some time at Winter Park, Colorado. Winter Park, Colorado is another prime ski area. Amtrak Zephyr Lines 5 and 6 stop here daily at Winter Park on their way to Chicago or San Francisco, California. Winter Park is the west portal for a 6.2-mile-long Muffet Tunnel used by trains to travel underneath the Continental Divide. I am showing you the Muffet East Portal, but I do not recommend you go there. The risk of tearing up your motorcycle is a real possibility. The road is 8 miles of soft sand, rock, gravel, and mud. After the ride to the East Portal, I developed a new Colorado rule. If it's gravel, turn around. Colorado gravel roads can turn from marginal to crap in 500 feet, and by the time you realize that, you're in deep trouble. A downed motorcycle, stuck in the mud, or rock damage are all possibilities on this road. So from Winter Park I went south on US 40, and I crossed the Continental Divide to the east side, riding onward to I-70. It was a beautiful ride. On I-70, I turned west to the Eisenhower Tunnel and back to the west side of the Continental Divide. I was looking for Breckenridge, Colorado to spend the night. I need some downright relaxing time and decided to stay 2 nights here in Breckenridge. The restaurants are good here, and they even have a well-stocked beef jerky store. The town of Breckenridge was founded in November 1859 and named for prospector Thomas Breckenridge. In 1860, General George E. Spencer persuaded the citizens to change the spelling of the town's name to Breckenridge with an I, in honor of U.S. Vice President John Campbell Breckenridge, in hopes of gaining a post office. Well, that political move must not work because the town's name went back to Breckenridge with an E. Breckenridge is a town that is known for its luxurious ski resorts, stunning mountain scenery, and endless recreation. The former mining town is lined with hundreds of restaurants, shops, and salons. Breckenridge attracts visitors from all around the world. But if there's snow on the ground, this place is way too expensive for this person you hear speaking. Let's look at the dream map again. I'll ride south to Pikes Peak. I stopped at Hoosier Pass and crossed over the Continental Divide to the east side again. There I found a little gallery and a working post office. That is so cool. Daylight hours are burning and I needed to continue my ride to Pikes Peak, where I rode my motorcycle to the top. I'm going to save this video for another time, or maybe not. Please let me know in the comments. I camped at the base of Pikes Peak at a campsite called Lone Duck Campground. I've camped here several times before. They have a big friendly dog. I think it's a St. Bernard. I can't remember the dog's name, but the dog remembers me because I pet it and feed it treats every time I camp here. It is here on May 23, 2021 at this campsite called Lone Duck Campground, and it's where the rest of my life started. I'll pick this story up after an update from the Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Train. All this crazy editing will start to make sense as to why I made the Durango train the centerpiece of my video. Welcome back to the Durango Silverton Narrow Gauge Train. We're about 3 miles away from Silverton, Colorado. In the mountains surrounding Silverton are where the gold and silver mines are located, containing the gold and silver ore. The ore was loaded on the train here and moved to Durango, Colorado for smelting. It was easier to move the gold and silver ore downhill 50 miles to Durango than hauling the coal uphill to Silverton for smelting. Smelting is a process used to purify the gold and silver. Some of the passengers on this train have one-way tickets and will ride the bus back to Durango to save time and money. This is a great ride for the kids and for people who are still a kid at heart. Oil is used instead of coal to make steam for these train engines to move. 2 steam engines were used to pull this train to Silverton. At Silverton, when the passengers deboard the train, it will be flipped completely using a side track. Passengers are assigned seating, and this will allow everyone to see both sides of the track on a round trip. 1 steam engine will be released and sent back early to Durango, no longer needed because the grade of track is mostly downhill from here. I just love the sound of that horn. It brings back memories in the early 1950s, about 2 or 3 years after I was born. Diesel train engines were replacing steam engines at a rapid rate. My dad was holding me in his arms in a small town in northeast Iowa when a steam engine pulling a train came through town. That whistle, the sounds of a simpler time, when your whole world was nothing more than just your mom and dad. Living on a farm 2 miles from the track, you could hear that lonesome whistle for miles in the distance, feeling you were left behind. My dad is gone now, and my mother's frail, and I'm glad I came here today. Silverton, Colorado's elevation is 9,318 feet above sea level. The entire town is designated as a National Historic Landmark. Gold mining gave way to the extraction of silver in the 1880s. Production continued modestly after the collapse of the world silver market in 1893. The last working mine closed in 1991. The town now relies mostly on tourism. Let's check out this town called Silverton. I would have loved to stay overnight at this historic Grand Imperial Hotel in downtown Silverton if I was not already staying at a hotel in Durango. There are restaurants all over Silverton for me to dine at during the 2-hour stay before the train returns to Durango. I strolled through this nostalgic town and was enjoying the sights of the West. I was hoping not to hear 4 long whistles indicating that you have 10 minutes to get back to the train before it leaves. Oh yeah, I paid a train photographer to take this picture of me, and by God you're going to look at it so I can contemplate writing this expense off. How would I write this expense off if I'm not making any money with this video in the first place? Oh well, it sucks to be me. Let us go back to Pikes Peak and pick up where I left off at the start of my special day. It is May 23rd, 2021. It is the anniversary date of my grandmother's passing, but it also is the anniversary date of criminals Bonnie and Clyde, who were shot and killed in Louisiana by Louisiana and Texas State Police. So this is the way my day is starting. I want to tell you a few things that I take along with me on my trip. The first thing you'll notice is the red band on my right arm. No, it's not a medical bracelet. It is a rubber bracelet that I wear 24/7 when I purchased my Honda Goldwing. Every time I see that bracelet in a photograph, I know I own and ride a Honda Goldwing. The second thing on my motorcycle is something you can't buy yourself. It has to be given to you, unsolicited by family or friend. It's called a Guardian, Good Luck, or Demon Bell. It is said that this bell will protect you from demons that try to hitch a ride on your motorcycle and make your life miserable. If you don't believe me it works, I ask you if you've ever seen a chuck hole in the road. That is where the demon has jumped off the motorcycle after seeing the bell. A chuck hole in the road is a result of the demon leaving so fast, and now you know. I'm having a little fun with you. The third thing is a satellite tracker by Garmin. There are other makes available, but I have and like the Garmin. Satellite trackers allow you to text family and friends from anywhere on the planet. No cell service is required. In the mountains, you may sometimes go for miles without cell service or internet. The Garmin satellite tracker pings a map for family and friends to see your exact location using a website. Your family and friends will have a place to look for if trouble finds you. The satellite tracker also has an SOS function, but use it only if you have a true life-threatening emergency. If not, you'll have to pay for fuel, time wasted by emergency responders attending to your SOS, and note that helicopters burn a lot of fuel. When I left my home 8 days ago, I packed my trailer very meticulously, packing items to size and weight and to where certain items would be needed during the day. An example would be you would not pack your tent on top of food or water because you will need to unpack the tent during the day to get to the food and water. A serious rule is always pack your trailer the same way every day. This morning I broke that rule and decided to repack my trailer to make the items fit better. I'm now ready to leave the campsite. I like the concept of the dream map in the last segment, so let's use it again in this segment. I left Lone Duck Campsite near the base of Pikes Peak. I went west on Highway 24 and then south on Highway 285 to Poncha Springs. There, I turned right on Highway 50 and headed west to Monarch Pass. A side note, Highway 50 in Utah is labeled the loneliest highway. The elevation of Monarch Pass is 11,312 feet above sea level and is approximately 20 miles away from Poncha Springs. There is a prominent ski resort just north of Monarch Pass bearing the same name. The Continental Divide is also located here, along with a museum, cafe, and a gondola ride. Yes, there's a gondola ski lift ride to the ridge for viewing. The cost of the gondola ride is just a few senior citizens' hard-cinched bucks. I would have used some of my 401k money if I had to. Nevertheless, I'm going. Might not get a chance again. The gondola ride is a beautiful ride where you can see where you come from and where you're going. The gondola ride was worth the time and effort, even though a heavy rain moved in when I got back to the motorcycle. The temperature in summer can be cool at Monarch Pass, so bring a jacket when you come. The next 20 miles to Gunnison, Colorado, the views are beautiful, but I had to keep my eyes on the road because of the heavy rain mentioned earlier. I did not record portions of this trip because I was soaked to the core. I definitely need a new rain suit, and it is a must if you ride a motorcycle. Approximately 10 miles east of Montrose, the mistake I made earlier in the morning by repacking my trailer came back to haunt me. I was on 11% downgrade, which means the road drops 11 feet with 100 feet of travel. I touched the brakes, and then it started. I was traveling 40 miles an hour, and the trailer swayed, which caused the motorcycle to compensate with a wobble. This causes more trailer sway and more motorcycle wobble. It is hard to get out of this situation, and some say you must accelerate to get out of it. In a death wobble, the motorcycle generally travels in a straight line, but violently wobbles from side to side. I knew for 10 seconds heading toward the cliff that this was to be my end. I thought to myself, relax. There is nothing I can do to prevent me from becoming the center stage of an accident. The motorcycle tilted to the left when it came off the road, heading between two rocks. The left rock tore off the top part of my instrument cluster and windshield, striking me in the head. I passed out for a few seconds, but not for long. I saw gravel and rocks sliding past my helmet face shield when everything finally came to a rest. The pain was awful, and my thoughts were, wait for it, death is near. I had a difficult time breathing, and I tried to get up. A woman who was in the car behind me saw me go over the cliff and came to my aid. She said emergency has been called and try not to get up. I could see nothing but bright light because my eyes had dilated wide open. I could see a little patch of blue in my upper right corner of my eye. I settled back on a rock, and then my vision returned. Still waiting for death, my thoughts went to that little bell on my motorcycle. Realizing that little bell had rang out, not to save my motorcycle, but to save my life. It was just too much to ask for that little bell to do both. The ambulance arrived, and everything hurt on my body that the responders touched. They cut off my Tail of the Dragon t-shirt and took my vitals and loaded me on a stretcher, and I was off to Montrose Hospital 10 miles away. My motorcycle was not done helping me, though, because I had strapped a satellite communicator on its side. This communicator kept pinging every 3 seconds, letting family and friends know its location. My family watched in horror as the map slowly showed the motorcycle moving to the salvage yard in Montrose. Family desperately tried to call my unanswered cell phone. I set up a text group at the beginning of my vacation for pictures and family communication. I was coming out of MRI when I texted them this picture. He's alive! I was just not sure for how long. The hospital report came in that my left fibula on the lower leg was split from top to bottom. 6 cracked ribs, 4 cracked vertebrae just below the head, 2 slightly compacted lombards, a brain bleed, and possible organ damage. It sounded like they were singing the 12 Days of Christmas. I was waiting for them to finish up with "And a partridge in a pear tree." The Montrose Hospital quickly prepared me for transport 60 miles away by ambulance to St. Mary's Trauma Center in Grand Junction, Colorado. My nephew Kyle is in the military and was flying from Dallas, Texas to Cedar Rapids with a Denver layover. He diverted from his flight in Denver and rented a car to unload my motorcycle at a salvage yard in Montrose, Colorado. The Garmin transponder operated for 3 days after the accident, and it told Kyle where the motorcycle was located. Kyle brought my cameras and equipment to the Grand Junction Hospital. In that collection of stuff was that little bell that rang out for my life. Doctors and nurses were great. The brain bleed stopped on its own, and the leg required a boot for about 12 weeks to hold the fibula in place. The cracked ribs had to heal on their own. I wore a neck brace for 9 weeks to allow the vertebrae to mend themselves. Prognosis: full recovery. I was having problems getting off of oxygen, and the blood pressure would drop every time I stood up. It was my family that got me through this rough patch of physical therapy and emotional moods. Things for me could have ended much worse. I started back to work at the University of Iowa on the first day of September in 2021. I had a lot of pains, but walking is a good healer. The waning sunsets of September gradually cool down the temperatures as winter starts to set in. Things go indoors, as do your memories of warmer times. Then I remembered the happiness I had riding my motorcycle right up to the accident. It happened all over again, just like the last time, and it would not go away. The doctors in the hospital said, "You will need to give up your red motorcycle." So I thought long and hard before I bought a blue one. I have a new mission, and that was to go back to Colorado and continue my last year's vacation. I needed to see for myself where I almost met my demise. I left two things buried next to the crash site: a cut red bracelet and that little bell that rang out for me. I wanted to see if it could do anything, if not, only to remember my other motorcycle. Let's just go back to Durango. I still have some stuff to show you. So now you know. This Durango Narrow Gauge Train ride is a continuation of my last year's trip. My dash between my birthday and my future unknown date with my destiny is continuing. Linda Ellis sums it up nicely for me, and I would like to read her poem here. She writes, "I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from beginning to end. He noted that the first came the date of the birth, and he spoke of the following date with tears. But he said what really matters most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash line represents all of the time that we spend alive on earth. And now only those who love us know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we lived and loved, and how we spent our dash. So think about it long and hard. Are there things you would like to change? For you never know how much time is left that our dash can still be arranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger, and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, and more often wear a smile, remembering your special dash might only last a little while more. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? Like this poem, this train trip has a beginning and end. Let's enjoy it together for a little while more. The train has pulled out of Silverton, and we're heading 55 miles back to Durango from where we had come. I'm sitting in the same seat, but I will see the other side of the track going back to Durango because the train was flipped using side tracks in Silverton. Only one steam engine is required to take us back down the hill to Durango. The other steam engine already left for Durango to prepare for its next day repeat journey to Silverton. It is beautiful here, and I've learned more about our past history and transportation and how we evolved, from walking to riding a horse to trains to now automobiles. That whistle is what took me back to my early childhood. I don't want to forget the past, but I do not want to go back to that time period either. Time moves on, and I need to relish this moment for what it is. I survived a tremendous motorcycle crash and recovered 100%. The human body is an amazing tool, healing itself after an accident, but nature can also use natural selection in a blink of an eye if the damage is too great. I promised you another look at the canyon as we head back to Durango. Now let us look back to where we've just been seconds ago. Isn't it beautiful? There are a lot of should've and could'ves in life, but if you don't take the chance, you will never relish the highs if you don't experience the lows. So I have chosen to ride a motorcycle because it brings me joy. I was happy all the way up to last year's accident. When I made my decision to buy another motorcycle, and dealers don't give these things away, guess what? I got my smile back. I do recommend that you come here to Durango and ride the narrow gauge train. Tickets are available, but you may have to book ahead during the busy season. I had to wait 2 days after purchase before I could board the train, but sometimes it can take up to weeks. I'm not asking you to click on the subscribe button or notification bell because I do not monetize my videos. I do this for the sheer enjoyment of it. I hope to see you, the viewer, in my future travels. It doesn't matter what you ride as long as you ride. On my way back, I stopped at the hospital in Grand Junction to thank the doctors and nurses for what they did for me. Anyway, on my way back to Iowa, I stayed at a hotel in Silverton, Colorado, north of Breckenridge. That morning, while packing my motorcycle, I saw 2 beautiful vintage Goldwing motorcycles. I was admiring the detailing of these Goldwings from Georgia when the riders came out of the hotel to pack their motorcycle. This father-son team from Georgia, owners of the 2 motorcycles, gave me the complete tour of all their modifications. They left to go inside to continue packing. I was outside working on my motorcycle, and moments later, both of them come running outside saying, "You're the one! You're the one that did the video on the Blue Ridge Parkway. We've just checked it out in our room." Well, my head swelled up like a popcorn in a microwave. I could barely get through the hotel door to get the rest of my gear. And then I told myself, knock it off. I do enjoy editing and don't want the stress of putting out weekly content. I enjoy my job at the University of Iowa working with young college students and their open minds. I'm coming close to 70 years of age and my retirement will arrive soon enough. I want to thank my 88-year-old mother, siblings, and F-Troop of Cedar Rapids. F-Troop is an independent motorcycle club and I thank them for their support. I know this video was more personal than it should be, but it was very therapeutic for me. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.